boy once stood in front of a mirror, not to see who he was, but to measure who he wasn't. Every day, he compared his life to others and felt smaller, weaker, and invisible. One night, a simple moment changed everything, a moment that made him realize he had been running the wrong race all his life. What happened next didn't just change his future, it changed the way he saw himself forever. He didn't realize when it started. At first, it was just a glance, watching others succeed, smile, move ahead. But slowly, that glance turned into a habit, and that habit turned into a silent enemy living inside his mind. Every achievement of someone else felt like a reminder of what he believed he lacked. He stopped celebrating his small wins because they didn't look big enough compared to others. Without knowing it, he began to measure his worth using someone else's ruler. And every time he fell short each morning, he woke up with a heavy heart, not because his life was empty, but because he believed it was. He ignored the effort he had put in, the struggles he had survived, the growth that had taken place quietly. Instead, his mind replayed images of people doing better, faster, greater. He told himself he wasn't good enough, not smart enough, not successful enough. These thoughts didn't scream. They whispered. And because they whispered, he believed them. The more he compared, the smaller he felt. Confidence faded, replaced by doubt. Dreams that once excited him now felt pointless because he assumed someone else would always be better. He stopped trying his best, not because he was lazy, but because he was tired of feeling behind. Comparison didn't motivate him, it drained him. It didn't push him forward. It chained him to regret. What hurt the most was that nothing was actually wrong with him. The problem wasn't his ability or his potential. The problem was that comparison stole his joy before he ever had a chance to protect it. It robbed him of peace, made him blind to his own value, and convinced him that his journey was meaningless. But the truth remained hidden in plain sight. He was never meant to live someone else's life. The moment he understood that, the weight on his heart began to lift, and for the first time, he saw himself clearly, not as less, but as enough, as status for a long time. He believed life was a straight road, and everyone started at the same place. When he saw others moving faster, he assumed he was slow, broken, or failing. He never asked where they had begun, what support they had, or what storms they had already survived. He only saw the destination, never the distance traveled. This misunderstanding quietly filled him with frustration, because no matter how hard he tried, it felt like he was always behind. One day, life forced him to pause. In that still moment, he began to notice something he had ignored for years. Some people carried invisible advantages, while others carried invisible burdens. Some had early guidance, some had safety nets, some had opportunities handed to them at the right time. Others, like him, had learned lessons the hard way through mistakes, delays, and silent struggles. Suddenly, it became clear that life was not a race on one track, but millions of separate journeys unfolding at different speeds. He realized that timing is personal. A flower does not bloom late because it blooms in its own season. Forcing it to open early only destroys it. In the same way, his growth was not delayed. It was developing. Every step he took, even the slow ones, was shaping strength, patience, and depth within him. The pain he once hated was quietly preparing him for something greater. When he accepted that everyone walks a different path, his heart's jealousy faded into understanding. Pressure turned into patience. He stopped rushing his life to match someone else's timeline and started respecting his own. In that acceptance, he found peace. He no longer needed to compare chapters from different lives, because he finally understood that his story was being written exactly the way it needed to be. The day he stopped measuring himself against others was the day his life truly began. He realized that every time he compared himself to someone else, he was fighting a battle he could never win. There would always be someone ahead, someone richer, someone faster. But when he looked back at who he used to be, he saw something: powerful progress. Small, quiet progress that had gone unnoticed because he was too busy watching others. He began to ask himself a different question. Not why am I behind them, but am I better than I was yesterday? That single shift changed everything. His focus moved from envy to effort, from frustration to discipline. He started celebrating small victories, waking up earlier than before, trying again after failure, choosing courage over fear. These moments didn't look impressive to the world, but they felt meaningful to him. With time, confidence returned, loud or arrogant, but calm and steady. He no longer needed validation from others because he could see his own growth. Mistakes became lessons instead of proof of failure. Progress, no matter how slow, became something to respect. He learned that becoming better is not about speed, it's about consistency. As he continued comparing himself only to his past, the pressure lifted. There was no rush, no competition, no fear of falling behind. He moved forward with clarity, knowing that improvement is deeply personal. The person he was becoming mattered more than the people he was watching. In that space, peace found him, not because life became easy, but because it became honest. He finally understood that the only person he needed to outgrow was the version of himself that once doubted his worth. And with every step forward, he proved to himself that he was capable, evolving, and more powerful than he had ever believed.